Hello, Potter! Heads. Here is the story of Gilderoy Lockhart and the Dueler of Durmstrang, my third installment of the Lockhart series. Let's go. The air in the subterranean cavern in northern Norway was thick with the scent of ozone and illicit magic. 16 cloaked figures stood ready to compete, their identities shrouded in shadow, drawn by the irresistible siren call of 10,000 galleons. This was no sanctioned ministry tournament. It was a brutal, underground affair where the only rule was that there were no rules, and every match was a fight to the magical finish. But the Ministry of Magic had received a chilling rumor. Intelligence suggested that among the nameless combatants was a charismatic, highly dangerous wizard whose true ambition was not the prize money, but to use the tournament's platform to rally remaining Death Eaters and establish a foothold after the fall of the Dark Lord. The potential for a new dark reign was too great to ignore. Thus, a tightly rolled wax-sealed parchment found its way to Gilderoy Lockhart, who is currently languishing in a post-fame semi-retirement. The letter from a ministry contact was simple, yet laden with responsibility. Infiltrate the tournament, identify the rising threat, and neutralize them. Lockhart, despite the necessary secrecy, found the drama of a covert mission absolutely intoxicating. His first task was creating a disguise suitably rugged for a rough-and-tumble dueling event. With a reluctant wave of his wand, he settled on altering his most precious asset's face. His dazzling blue eyes were changed to a smoky gray, and, with a sigh of theatrical misery, he added a thick, bristling, charcoal-colored mustache, renaming himself Gideon Locksmith, a humble, slightly weathered mercenary from the Balkans, using his contacts, some of whom actually owed him a genuine favor. A rare occurrence, he secured the final spot in the tournament bracket. The arena, carved out of the rock beneath the fjord, was a tense, dark circle surrounded by shadowy spectators and bookmakers. Lockhart felt the familiar, thrilling burn of the spotlight, even if this one was dim and cast upon a fictitious persona. His strategy in the early rounds was genius, perfectly suited to his reputation. In the first match, against a hulking Hungarian, Lockhart stumbled, fumbled, and looked utterly terrified, narrowly escaping a powerful curse only by what appeared to be pure, desperate luck. Then, at the last moment, he unleashed a complex, disarming charm, winning by a single, perfectly timed stroke. The second opponent, a swift duelist with a flair for non-verbal spells, found Lockhart to be an infuriatingly clumsy target. Lockhart played the role of the lucky fool, perfectly allowing curses to graze his sleeve and pretending to wipe sweat from his brow while actually casting a subtle, slow-acting, stunning jinx that took his opponent by surprise 2 minutes later. His third victory cemented his false reputation. He beat the opponent with a spell he'd simply remembered from a book he'd claimed credit for writing, again making the whole process look like a painful, near loss. He advanced, having wasted minimal energy, and the crowd dismissed Gideon Locksmith as a charmed idiot. The true test, however, was about to begin. The opposing side of the bracket had seen a far more chilling display of power. He was known only by the spectators' hushed whispers. The dueling wizard. He carried the unmistakable aura of Durmstrang training cold, hard, and terrifyingly efficient. He moved with the precision of a trained executioner, not a flamboyant showman. In his first match, the dueling wizard, whose actual name was Divikova, faced a veteran duelist known for brutal endurance. Divikova did not waste time. He used only one wand, and with a swift, elegant wrist movement, he deployed a string of curses that didn't just disarm his opponent, but pinned him bodily to the wall with barely visible magical bonds. The crowd gasped. Divikova's victory had been a lecture in magical economy. He didn't use power. He used perfect placement and timing. His next two opponents, both highly regarded warlocks, fared no better, dispatched with the same unnerving calm. A single, focused wand. 3 opponents defeated with such minimal effort it seemed like a practice session. The finals culminated, leaving only to standing the supposed lucky fool, Gideon Locksmith, and Divikova, the terrifying master of precision. The 2 men walked to the center of the ring, the only sound the distant roar of the glacial waters outside the cavern walls. Lockhart looked Divikova in his cold, obsidian eyes, and felt a sudden chill that had nothing to do with the Norwegian climate. Divikova's lips twitched slightly, a subtle hint of a smile. In that moment, Lockhart knew his disguise was useless. Divikova saw right through the charcoal mustache to the vanity and the genuine magical talent beneath. The duel began, and Divikova held true to form, using only his primary wand. He cast with brutal intent, but the spells were subtly held back, as if he were testing Lockhart's true limits. Lockhart responded with genuine skill now, deploying shield charms and counterjinks as he never dared use in his published works, holding the line with grim determination. The fight settled into a tense, 5-minute dance, Divikova pushing, Lockhart reluctantly matching. Divikova was clearly the superior duelist, but Lockhart was proving to be a highly effective defensive wizard, something his books would never admit. Divikova's lips finally curled into a sneer of full recognition. "You are not locksmith," Divikova said, his voice a low rumble. "You are the fool whose reputation precedes his skill. But you have some skill, I grant you." With a dramatic flourish, he reached into his robes and pulled out a second wand, gripping one in each hand. The dynamic of the duel changed instantly, violently. Divikova deployed a shocking strategy. His left-hand wand began weaving a shimmering, constantly shifting wall of defensive and counter curses, while his right-hand wand launched a blinding, continuous barrage of dark offensive spells. The assault was relentless and impossible to penetrate. Lockhart was immediately forced entirely onto the defense. The force of the attacks was dizzying. His standard shield charms were cracking under the pressure of the simultaneous strikes. He needed to find a flaw, a single point of failure in Divikova's Twin Wand Fortress, or he would be overcome and the mission would fail. He focused entirely on survival, deflecting bolts, ducking curses, and moving with frantic speed. Divikova, now certain of victory, pressed his advantage. But in that moment of triumphant aggression, Divikova's defensive wand momentarily lagged. The silver shield around his core dipping by an inch as he prepared the next powerful offensive strike. That was the chance. In a surge of desperate genius, Lockhart didn't wait for the opening. He created it. With a roar of genuine power, he cast his most complex and utterly nonsensical spell, Lockhart Labyrinth! The charm, which induced temporary but extreme spatial disorientation, struck Divikova squarely. Divikova staggered, his defensive wall collapsing in glittering shards as he lost his bearings. Lockhart pressed the sudden advantage, abandoning his defense and rushing forward, his wand now a spear. He slammed Divikova with a final, powerful stunner, winning the match. The crowd erupted, the danger neutralized. The mission completed only, Gilderoy Lockhart knew the real reason why he had fought in the dark Norwegian depths. That was quite the fight. I had to really capture Gilderoy's unique mix of genuine, if shallow, skill, and his over-the-top dramatics. What do you think of the James Bond-esque and Indiana Jones version of Gilderoy Lockhart? Kindly comment and subscribe.